All right, today is a day I've literally been looking forward to for months. If you followed anything that's going on in our economy right now, you know that semiconductors are almost impossible to get, and many motors rely on semiconductors. That's true in trucks and cars, but also in outboards. So I've had a boat on order from Avid for a while, but getting an outboard has been a challenge. Finally got it. The boat is all put together with all the features that I ordered, and now Joel and I'm
so excited to see this.
Are heading up to the Avid factory to go pick up my boat. Obviously, we also want to look around at the Avid factory. Never been inside a boat manufacturer before. Just want to see that process. But you know, it's said that the two best days in a man's life are the day he buys his boat and the day he sells it. Definitely not true for me. I don't like selling boats. I always feel a little bit heartbroken when I have to, but I'm definitely jacked about getting this new Avid. I cannot wait to see it. Ooh, there it is. All right, we made it. Let's go in and see our boat. We got to go meet the owner first, Philip Faulkner. I've talked to Philip many times on the phone, never actually met him. I will now.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Here to see Philip?
Okay. Are you here to pick up a boat?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to get y'all to pull around.
Around over here? Okay.
Drive right there. Go to that first dock door that you'll see. We'll be out there to meet you.
Okay, awesome. All right, we pulled into the factory. I'm pretty sure this is my boat. This is it, huh?
That's the one you want?
I'll take it. All right, we successfully completed the 5-hour drive home from the Avid factory in Tupelo, Mississippi, or just south of Tupelo. And let me tell you, it was a bit of a harrowing journey. It rained a lot. Also, it's a little unnerving, and it always is, towing a new boat. It's kind of like driving a new car off the lot the first day. You're just really, really cautious and careful. But fortunately, we got home safely. And since I announced on social media that I was getting a new boat, I got an absolute ton of questions asking why I opted for a bass boat. And really, the answer to that is kind of twofold. The style of fishing I do these days just really doesn't fit with a bay boat. Believe me, that G3 worked out really, really well for me. I had very few complaints with that boat, but I just don't fish a whole lot of open water. Most of my fishing, as you know, if you're a regular viewer, is done in the marsh. So I don't need something that can handle a bunch of waves. My neighbor's cutting his grass. Let me close the garage door. All right, that's better. So as I was saying, I don't really need a boat that can handle big water. I really need something that does a whole lot better in skinny water. And I could have gone with a flats boat, and believe me, I looked at them, and man, some of them are super impressive. But a flats boat leaves me with many of the same problems that I had with that G3, and that's lack of storage. Again, if you're a regular viewer, you know there was stuff all over that boat, and I just didn't have an option. There was nowhere to put it. I had 3 storage holds in that G3. They were really small and they leaked like sieves. So they weren't dry at all. Couldn't store anything in there. If you happen to leave something in there when it rained, it would get nasty and wet. So I really wanted lots of deck space with lots of storage. And that kind of really pushed me toward the bass boat design. I do fish a lot of bass. I also fish a lot of redfish and speckled trout seasonally when they're in those marshes. And I've never owned a bass boat, so I can't say definitively I'm gonna be 100% satisfied with the design. But you know, I always say every boat is a compromise. There are good points and bad points to every single boat. You just wanna get a quality boat within the style of boat that you select, if that makes sense. And I've gotta tell you, I really feel like I've done that here. I could not be more happy with my selection with this Avid. So I'm gonna take you through some of the features of this boat and let you know why I decided to go this route. And I think when you see them, you're gonna agree. These boats, if anything, they're overbuilt. They really thought of absolutely everything. And man, it's just got some great features. Here we go. So just in general with the construction of this boat, it's got a true tapered beam forward gunnel. Now, what does that mean? You know, if you look at this Avid, you see these sleek lines that really don't look at all like an aluminum boat. It looks like a glass boat. Most aluminum boats, of course, are really kind of angular, right? They got a lot of points and angles. This one doesn't. It's got smooth lines. But a good point of those aluminum boats is that they tend to have a lot of deck space because they keep that deck so wide, so forward in the boat. And actually, Avid was able to do that. The width of this bow extends far before curving back into the point. It's not like a true arrowhead point with a narrow bow. It's got a nice wide bow on it. Lots and lots of deck space. My buddy Captain Justin Bowles came and saw the boat today and literally could not get over how much deck space is available on this 19-foot boat. And along those same lines, it's got a 97-inch beam, really, really wide. And it's also got a 69-inch bottom width. See that under there? So obviously that makes for a lot more interior space. It also tends to make the boat more stable. It's a lot less tippy, even than some glass bass boats. And that's really beneficial because aluminum boats are lighter, they sit higher on the water. And traditionally, you know, if a guy's standing on one side of the boat and moves to the other side, you know, it really makes the boat lean a lot. That's less true with this boat. Now, a wide bottom on an aluminum boat used to be a problem, but it's really not anymore. And I'm gonna let Philip explain that the way he explained it to me.
Right. So the big trade-off with that over the years has been, well, the wider I go, the slower my boat's gonna be, right? I've got more drag. And so this boat, along with every Avid boat, is backed with a ProMaster pad hull design. So this is a proprietary hull design that we developed. Every boat we build has a pad hull. And you'll also notice this 4-inch transom set back here. That's almost like a sort of a built-in 4-inch jack plate, if you will. So all this is to bring performance to that boat so that, yes, I do have the stable platform, I do have the storage, I do have the room, but I'm not sacrificing speed, I'm not sacrificing fuel economy, I'm not sacrificing my hull shot. It is a high-performance tournament rig, make no mistakes about it.
All right, let me show you something else with the manufacture of the boat. This is a 1/4-inch thick aluminum extrusion that's welded on both sides. It runs down this seam, and that's important because this is the part of the boat that takes the brunt of the force from waves. Most manufacturers simply butt seam these. You just have one weld right down the middle here. This is actually an additional aluminum piece that is then welded onto the main part of the hull. And Avid is so confident in that feature that they actually offer with every boat a lifetime hull warranty. These hulls are gonna last you as long as you use your boat. All right, now I'm gonna get in the boat and show you the console. All right, first off, the underside of the console is actually sealed. It's closed. You can see down here. Now it does have a door somewhere right around here. It's waterproof and it holds all your fuses and provides easy access to anything you need to access on the backside of that console. But the reason they did that is because most consoles, as you know, are open under the bottom. They get full of dirt and bugs and moisture and just get kind of nasty. By sealing that off, that prevents that from happening. Really smart design. In the console itself, you can see I went with a 12-inch Humminbird Solix. Definitely not cheap electronics, but I wanted some quality electronics to be able to see those satellite maps, see where I'm going, and see new areas that I might want to fish. Got a fuel gauge and speedometer. All these buttons are LED lit on both sides. Got a cell phone holder along with a USB charger to charge your cell phone. And of course a tack right here. It's just a really, really cool looking console in my view. I mean, you know, aesthetics on everything, but they're not unimportant. Of course, here we got the handles for the trim and the jack plate. I definitely wanted a jack plate. I've never owned a boat that has one, but many of the people I fish with do. It's a game changer. Now, also an interesting feature on this step up here, they've got a door with a drawer. It's dry storage actually to hold your phone, glasses, keys, wallet, whatever you want to put in there. If you're like me, you're kind of always looking for a place to put all that type of stuff in your boat. In my last boat, I put it in those holes, which again, were not dry storage. They frequently got wet. Not an ideal situation. Oh, here's also a cool little feature. This right here is a ruler. Avid boat branded. You pull that out so you can measure all your fish. Definitely something important to us here in Louisiana, you know, because we keep fish to eat. No apologies for that. All right, here you can see the front deck. I went with the sea deck rather than carpet. Just because I do so much saltwater fishing, I just don't want to get slime all over the carpet. Kind of tougher to clean. I really, really like sea deck. A few of my buddies have it on their boats. They all rant and rave about it. It's really kind of an easy choice. Did have to pay a little bit more for it, but in the long run, it's well worth it. No doubt about it. And I keep my boat in the garage. Very important to me. So I know that sea deck's gonna hold up really, really well. This right here, of course, is a rod locker. It's got 8 slots for rods, each of which holds 2 rods. So it can hold 16 rods. Actually a little bit less because got to put the running lights in there. So they kind of take up a little bit of the space, but that's okay. I mean, I still got plenty of room for rods. I may eventually, I'm considering taking that out so I can just kind of stack the rods in there with rod sleeves on them. I may do that. I don't know. In the short run, I'm not. But at some point, we'll see. It may be a little project. And then in this hatch, I've got all my tackle. The plan is to keep tackle boxes available just to fill with these sleeves when I go on somebody else's boat. But fishing out of here, I'm just gonna use the sleeves. Don't need to have a tackle box. And man, I'm not gonna miss at all. Having those tackle boxes all over the boat drove me crazy. And of course, as many of you pointed out in previous videos, all those rods were always sticking out. We just didn't have anywhere to put them. I wasn't gonna leave them standing up next to the console in the G3 where you can hit them when you're making casts and all that. I really hate that. So we put them on the deck, and a lot of times crash fish into them and all that. It's just part of the deal. But, oh, I do have to point this out. You know, I mentioned I may actually have to take those rod separators out of the rod locker. Part of the motivation for that is because these spinning rods, I love these Akuma rods, but these guides are too big to fit through those holes. So those do have to stay on the deck. But again, they're really out of the way. Not a problem. Nothing like my other boat. Currently, this dry storage, empty. Oh, it does have an oar in there. By law, I have to carry an oar, so that's in there right now. Now right here, I've got the leaning post. As you age, you get less balance. Your balance suffers. So it's always good to have something up on the bow to lean against in rough seas. So this is kind of a no-brainer. I think I did have to pay a little extra for this, but again, well worth it. And then I've got the Ultrex trolling motor. We've got foot control and remote control. I'm kind of a remote control guy. That's what I use. That's what I'm used to. But it'll be nice to have that foot control every now and then when I'm fishing, you know, maybe a bass tournament or something, and I want my hands free the whole time I'm fishing. And then up here, I've got the 9-inch Helix. Oh, and this is an interesting feature. If you notice, a lot of bass boats have a depression here to hold the depth finder GPS. Avid actually has this mounted riser right here, and it serves two purposes. Number one, it gets the depth finder closer to your eyes so you can see it better. Number two, you can adjust the angle of it. You know, if the sun's shining on it, you can't see it well, you can kind of tip it down and change that angle. Also, of course, it allows you to increase the size if you eventually want to get a bigger one. So that's a really cool feature. Oh, I'm reminded. Something else I forgot to tell you. In the rod locker and the dry storage, it's all truly dry storage. You've got this elevated lip right here, plus you have this gasket to seal it off. So the boat would literally have to flood in order for water to get in there. And if that happens, you got bigger issues. Oh, and one more thing about the rod locker. It's got lights. You know me, I'm typically very, very early on the water. Many times, I mean, it's almost completely dark. That's gonna come in handy for being able to access all my gear. And that's controlled just with this switch. The boat also has courtesy lights, as you see there. The first thing in the morning, so nobody trips or slips on the boat. Oh, and yet another thing, for us shorter guys, the first time I got in an Avid 19XB, I noticed I was really far from the steering wheel, but Avid has a solution for that. They actually have an adjustable seat, which I had to get to pull myself up close to be comfortable when driving the boat. You definitely don't want to have to pull forward in that seat or hunch over to reach the steering wheel, and certainly I won't have to now. You guys who are like 6'8", you don't have to worry about that. You can save that money. And you know I never go fishing without my H&H push pole. It's such a lifesaver. It has kept me out of so much trouble over the years. It also allows me to fish more aggressively because I know I have it and get out. I can get out if I absolutely need to. Don't like using it because, hey, who likes pushing a boat when you could be fishing? But sometimes I just take myself back into areas that are difficult to get out of. So that's an essential piece of equipment. It's not very sightly in the new boat, but I don't care. It's an essential tool. I don't go fishing without it. So I've got that mounted right there in an area really designed for passengers' rods. My passengers can put their rods on the deck or in the rod holder. I got my net right here behind the two seats. That may not be a permanent solution. I got to see how it rides right there. I think it's going to be okay, but we'll see. And back here we got a dual door Livewell. As you can see, it's got a divider so you can keep track of your fish. You can close it off or you can recirculate, whatever you want to do. Also, this is a really cool feature. All Avid boats have bolted through hinges. If you've seen, most aluminum boats have riveted hinges or sometimes even welded hinges. These are bolted through to make them last forever. You're really not gonna have problems with those, certainly relative to riveted hinges. And something you can't see that's Under these live wells and also under where I'm squatting right now is the Avid fuel tank. This is a really, really interesting design. I'm also gonna let Philip explain that. Simply ingenious.
Just from a fundamental standpoint, something that you'll notice in this boat, there's no fuel tank in the bilge. You won't find a fuel tank anywhere in the bilge of any of our boats. And the reason we do that is for a couple of reasons. From a performance standpoint, we locate our fuel tank underneath this seat area right here. And what we're doing by that is we're shifting our center of gravity a little bit further forward, which is giving me a much faster hole shot. Less likely to porpoise, better performance, better lift. I'm just shifting that CG a little further forward. You know, the traditional aluminum fishing boat, whether it's a bay boat, whether it's a bass boat, you name it, typically you'll have the weight of your motor on the transom of the boat, you'll have the weight of your fuel tank, your fuel, your batteries. Everything is concentrated back at the transom of the boat, so that really gives it a kind of a transom down attitude in the water, kind of a nose high, tail heavy attitude in the water. You're not really getting that shallow draft like you need, whether it be a bay or a bass boat. So by shifting that CG a little further forward, distributing some of that weight of that fuel up further forward in the boat, I can now set with a more flat attitude in the water. So that helps me get back in some shallower pockets. That helps me just have a flat, nice flat fishing platform. And certainly from a performance standpoint, having that weight a little further forward, you don't have the porpoising issue that you can have with some of our competitors.
Oh, also, the live well is actually lighted as well. You can see that here. Helps to get those fish out in low light conditions, or also just to give you a little bit of light to help you when you're putting your fish in first thing in the morning. Now this hatch I'm actually using as dry storage, but it can be an ice chest. It drains and it's insulated, so it could be an ice chest if you wanted to use it as such. For me, I just want it for dry storage. Got all my PFDs in there. And here's the complementary hatch to that one. Again, also got a drain. Let me show you that. There's the drain right here. But I've got all my tools and ropes and fire extinguisher and goggles, insect spray, Amber Romance, all that good stuff in there. It's kind of just a utility box on the boat. All the cleats fold up and down, click into place. Nice feature, particularly if you're walking around the boat in flip-flops or barefoot. It's nice to have those cleats down so you don't grab a toe or grab the bottom of your flip-flop or whatever. Now the final hold is for the batteries. And as you can see, it's quite roomy because you don't have that fuel tank back here. And mine has a 3-bank onboard battery charger. Obviously, that's essential. And the motor I went with is a Yamaha 150 Show. Now, I've never run a Show, but from everything I've learned about them and researching them, really the way to go. Great hole shot and just a really dependable motor. Heck, that's what we all want, right? Performance and dependability. Everybody will take that in a motor. Man, Philip ended our trip up to the Avid plant with a tour of the facility. I gotta tell you, for Joel and me, our minds were blown. Just absolutely incredible to see what they do. What starts initially as a coil of aluminum becomes these beautiful, beautiful bass boats and bay boats. I got bay boats as well. But the steps in the process really kind of blew our minds, and it was quite obvious to us they put a lot of effort into quality control. The fact that these boats are awesome, believe me, it's not an accident.